kids. Welcome back. Had a few questions in the community post about strategy and tactics. And I guess it's a fairly common question. For instance, I assume we all want to be, world famous successful arm wrestlers. So that would be a goal. Not a very good goal. You'd have to get a little more details on it. But in order to be a world famous successful arm wrestler, you got to choose a path. Okay? One would be lots of hard work, get stronger, just become formidable in your abilities, and choose a route where you just want to be an excellent arm wrestler. Or the other one would be, I want to win this tournament, that tournament, that tournament, or I want to beat these people. I want to beat all the people in my training camp. So that's the difference between choosing excellence or victory as a strategy. Now, they're both viable, and a lot of people do it. And when you first start out, you have to establish yourself. So you got to win some tournaments, you got to win some matches. So victory is a very good strategy for becoming a world famous successful arm wrestler. Excellence would be something you would choose later. The tactics, though, would be, are you going to table time 4 times a week, or are you going to go to the gym 14 times a week? Those are tactics. We all want strong hands, all right? We can get strong hands by doing, say, 50 sets of 10 with barbell wrist curls, and we can exercise our hands in a rice bucket for hours a day. Those are tactics. Or you can do wrist curls using a wrist wrench on a pulley machine for 3 or 4 heavy sets. Those are different tactics. The strategy is to develop a strong hand and wrist. The tactics are the individual steps that you use to get there. Let's see. Heavyweight training versus bodybuilding style training. Those are strategies, but dumbbell curls versus bicep versus barbell curls are tactics. And we'll keep touching on this later. One thing that comes up every once in a while is motivation. Now, when you're first starting arm wrestling, when I first started, my motivation was I wanted to win my state championship because my kids were recently born, and I just thought they would think it was cool when they brought my grandkids over to my house if I had a state arm wrestling championship trophy sitting in my house. Don't know why. My dad had trophies. I'm not sure he ever dug them out and I saw them. I wasn't impressed with the stuff my father did. But that was my motivation in the beginning. After a few years of leagues coming and going, champions coming and going, and I was still around, I changed to a excellence over victory strategy. Not trying to just win every single match every year, but more of a long-term, leave a legacy type strategy. Wanting to go down not as the greatest ever, but as one of the best ever anyways. So that's my motivation now. But whatever keeps you going. The prize money is pretty lucrative right now for me. So, the prize money, earning some money, arm wrestling is a pretty big motivation. Let's see, what else can we talk about? Strategies. I'm sure we'll pop into it. As you can tell, these things aren't real scripted events. This is where I feed my cats. And my cats are filthy animals and they never clean up after themselves. I bought a whole bunch of little tiny sponges and little mops for these cats, but they like refuse to use them. Now, I leave a bottle cap on the floor. They'll use that all night long, but they will not clean up after themselves. We're gonna have to, me and these cats are gonna have a talk. Toddzilla. The name Toddzilla, the Toddzilla dance, the in-between round fist pumping stuff, the origin of all of that is not real interesting. When my kids were little, they went through a series of game systems. We had Xboxes and GameCubes and video spheres and computer systems and whatever. So we were always buying gaming systems. But yet they always kept, the games themselves always looked kind of similar. There was always something getting chased, something running through some sort of puzzle or maze, or things fighting. About our second or third year in South Carolina, the game that they found really popular was like Godzilla King of Monsters or Godzilla Fighting Monsters, or it was some kind of Godzilla and all the classic Godzilla foes and enemies they would fight. And scripted like ready-go fights in some sort of city, I think it was New York. But anyways, there was a Godzilla who had swords for hands. And I don't know what he was called. Mecha Godzilla or something. But that Godzilla, when he won, would wave his sword hands around, and in between fights he would bang his sword hands together. So I saw that, had an epiphany, and got on the Northeast message board, adopted the nickname Toddzilla, and launched the Toddzilla dance and the inter-round bam bam fist punching. So, you know, sorry if I disappointed you there, but that's the true history of where the name of dance came from. Large hands, large opponents, large long arms and stuff. I never get questions on if you're a tall person, how do you deal with a short person? But I get a lot of questions if you're a smaller person, how do you deal with larger people? Which makes sense because even at a middleweight, I was always one of, if I wasn't the shortest person in a middleweight class, I was one of them. By the time you get in the 200-pound class, you start getting people that are, you know, easily over 6 feet tall. In the super heavyweight class, almost everybody's over 6 feet tall with large hands. So I've been dealing with the bigger folks for a long time. The strategy to deal with big hands kind of depends. If they're top rollers, it's actually easier to deal with their hands because top rollers are going backwards. So you set up, get as high as you can, get your arm vertical, you know, that forces the taller guy to open his hand up a little bit, and you're going to hit out. And myself, I never think I'm going to win the ready go anymore. When I started in 2000, I was pretty quick. I could be in the match off go more times than not, but now I'm always late. So top roller's trying to take you here, so let them have the go, let them take this much of you, but roll out that way. Okay, you should be able to slip or get out. There's several strategies on getting into the straps. This method particularly works in the straps. Let them take you back this way. Don't let them have this. Let them have that. Now you're bound at the straps. Your wrists are bound with the straps, and throw the match into your elbow. That works with top rollers. large hands and everything else. Dealing with a large-handed hook puller that's tough. That's actually tougher. If you're just flat stronger than them, you know, try not to hook them wrist to wrist. Try to hook them palm to palm. What I think a high hook is instead of a top roll and a wrist to wrist hook, I think a high hook is almost coming this way, where a top roll you'd be coming backwards, but a hook. That is how I would deal with a large inside puller. Keep those knuckles up, pull on there, palm to palm. Especially if you've been training your elbows, because if you pull them palm to palm, it moves the force a few more inches away from their elbow, which increases, due to the torque and a leverage effect, it'll increase the strain on their elbow by up to 10 or 20%, which is a lot. I have a real hard time slipping if the guy's an inside puller and he's bigger than me, because he's usually got, you know, his hand will cover from my knuckles down to my wrist. I'm not going to be able to top roll out of that. You could easily hook into it. Another strategy, if they're if their hands are bigger than yours and dominating, is to just let them have most of your hand, which losing your hand doesn't lose the match. You don't lose the match until you get pinned. And all matches end up going sideways. So get your world-class FU power side pressure developed. Set up again like you're gonna high hook. And if it goes, even if you let that go, just learn to pull with your fingers locked in, your wrist back, and just learn to fight through there. Wedge that arm up such that when they're pulling, if their force is going this way into your hand, try to direct their force along this bone so that you're driving that arm in. The last thing you want to do is if they're applying force and you're trying to counteract their force with your bicep. You don't want to be pulling on your bicep. You want that force going down along this bone, so it's trying to compress this part of your arm. And at that point, you use your shoulder and your leg to push along the axis of that bone. Let's see, what other widespread topics do I get? Injuries! I am not going to give you advice on your injuries. I will not give you medical advice on diagnosing, treating, anything to do with an injury. JM presses will prevent injuries. They will rehab your arms and prevent them. Being strong will prevent injuries. Okay? If you're a weightlifter, if you're in the gym and you're in the gym 4 and 5 hours a day, but you're not doing heavy 1 rep max work, but you're doing thousands of reps, so you're building volume, but you're not building strength, you will get injured. If you are not working heavy weights, you will get injured because you are not stronger. Strength prevents injuries. You have to be stronger. But I will not help you diagnose those. I am not a doctor. I do not want that responsibility. You call me, you text me, you say, I did this, I did that, this tendon's hurt, I go see a doctor. I am not going to give you any sort of medical advice whatsoever. I will tell you, get stronger. The stronger you are, the less you're injured. And the better your JM presses are, the better your elbows will always feel. I've had 2 serious injuries. I detached both biceps. The doctor stitched them back together. I refused their physical therapy both times. The first doctor, my first Mormon doctor, insisted that I go to physical therapy. I went one day. And I looked at the guy who was going to rehabilitate my arms. And I said, I know way more about building strong arms than you do. I never went back. My second doctor here in Marietta, Ohio, he was funny. He goes, Yeah, I'm not even going to send you to physical therapy. When I tell you to start lifting weights, please just start slow. That would be the only advice I would ever give you. If you're coming off an injury, start slow. But start. Both times I detached my tendon, it took me 6 months. From the time I got injured to the time I was winning championships again, took me 6 months. Let's see. Training programs. I post my training program. It's free. I do not offer online coaching. I will help you. I will answer any questions you got. I do not see how anybody coaches online unless I had videos of you in the gym that I could analyze, or if we were doing like a live Zoom call where I could watch you lift and practice, where I could actually ascertain your weak spots. If you pay money for an online coach and he responds by sending you a recipe of exercises, sets, reps, and weights, do you not think he sent that exact same recipe to a dozen other people? And do you think everybody in arm wrestling needs to be trained the same? You know, if you look at the top 4 people in any weight class, you got tall people, short people, big hands, little hands, fast people. You think all those people need to be trained the same? I see most of you shaking your heads no. Most of you is right. Grandma gets it. Absolutely not. You got to, maybe in the beginning, in your first year or so, you could tell somebody, hey, you need strong elbows, you need a strong hand, you need strong forearms and wrist work, you need some table time, you need some skills, and pretty much when you're a beginner, anything works. But 2 or 3 years into the sport, you need a customized program. You need to know where your weaknesses are, you need to develop a training regimen tailored towards your particular style. I do not have the time to watch you train every single day and work on that. Now, if I had a gym or you were training in, like if you trained at my house, I could very easily train you, but that would not be online training. And I've coached or strength coached or trained several people. And it works in my gym. Oh, this is my point. It's very hard to do these things when I'm not actually looking at somebody, so I lose my place. Training programs for beginners, people ask me. The training program I post, speed day, max day, volume day, auxiliary exercises, it's basically the same program I originally invented the first month I heard about the Westside barbell system. I'd only been arm wrestling a year, maybe a year and a half. I was in the first year I arm wrestled in Michigan. I moved to South Carolina in 2000. I learned about the Westside barbell system from Mark Bartley in the beginning of my second year of arm wrestling. I had 90% of my current workout strategy figured out within months. And it really hasn't changed. What has changed is I used to do a lot more exercises in the beginning than I do now. But a lot of them was based on, I was getting advice from arm wrestlers who said, you had to do this machine days every week, you had to do barbell wrist curls. You know, I was listening to everybody. I slowly got rid of all the exercises that I didn't think was making me stronger in order to concentrate on the exercises that work, that would get me in and out of the gym in an hour. If you are spending more than an hour doing your work sets, you're just training too much. You just, I mean, this is my opinion, but you just are. I get down to the gym, it might take me 20, 30 minutes of warm up, and it might take 20, to 40 minutes of work sets, depending on what I'm doing. And then I'm out. You know, 3 and 4 hours in the gym, oh my God, unless you're having Italian or Chinese food delivered, that's just too much. That's too much time. You don't compete that much in a tournament. That's just too much work. You're doing more than just arm wrestling work out of that. And if you're into sculpting your body or something like that, maybe it takes all that time, but getting strong for arm wrestling does not. My point is, this basic Westside barbell system that I've adapted works. It's the program I used as a beginner. It's the program I'm using now. It is the basic program I use when I've trained women, when I've trained beginners, when I've trained elite folks, whether they're on gear or whether they're completely natural. The system is simplistic in its effectiveness, okay? You start on your 1 rep maxes. You pick 1 rep maxes and speed day vectors, which focus on your weakness. If you are getting stronger, you add volume. If you are not getting stronger, you change your exercises and you add volume. In a nutshell, that's the program. The hard part is picking the exercises and then picking the auxiliary exercises. That's where, if I was your coach, that's where you would pay me money, would be to go and dissect your matches, dissect your lifts, and work on setting up the volume stuff for you. But this program works. I call it the Westside system because I was completely inspired by it. You Westside experts out there, if I've adulterated it to so far beyond that it doesn't look like Westside anymore, I apologize. I'm not attributing it to Westside. If it conforms to Westside's philosophy, then that's all Westside. Then Louis Simmons and Westside get all the credit for that. But I'm telling you, it worked. It might not be the fastest program, and it might not be the most effective for you, but it does work. Because it has to work. You are measuring your strength. And if you are not getting stronger every single week, you change something, you add volume, and you start getting stronger every week. These programs that are based on, I was doing 10 sets of 10 with 200 pounds, and now I can do 10 sets of 10 with 210 pounds. I'm stronger. I don't know if you're stronger or not. All I know is you can lift 210 pounds. Or my PR is I'm doing 5 reps at a certain weight. I don't know if you've increased your power. You might have increased your work, but I'm not sure you've increased your power. This is the Westside barbell system that I'm working with focuses on power and upping it. The only other thing, which is not arm wrestling related, but I think might help you on this journey, is getting your whole life centered. Because arm wrestling, as important as it is to you, isn't the most important. You still got a job to take, you still got a job to do, or you got to earn a living, you got to take care of your family. And I think humans like us we got 3 aspects you got to get balanced. You got to do something physical because our bodies are very physical in nature, and if you don't, if your body starts deteriorating, or if you start getting weak, it starts affecting your mood and stuff. Because when you start getting strong, you feel so good. Being strong feels great. So you got to get the physical stuff right. You got to work your brain as well. You got to do something intellectually challenging, whether it's solving high-level math questions or running a business or something, but you got to do something to keep you mentally focused, or you get kind of that dazed and confused look. And I believe there's a spiritual aspect you have to get right. I'm not telling you to go to church. I'm not trying to convince you to believe in Jesus or God or whatever. But in my own life, when I go to church, the whole week tends to work out better. But you work that out for yourself. Other than that, I think that's all I need to cover. Thanks, kids.